Ji Chen sat on the bed, his heart beating violently. He couldn't believe his eyes. The furnishings in the room were so familiar, the old-fashioned desk, the worn carpet, and his high school certificate hanging on the wall, all of which seemed to have a kind of magic, pulling him back to that long-lasting but unforgettable moment. He slowly raised his hand and touched his face. The cold touch made him realize that this was not a dream. Am I reborn? Ji Chen murmured to himself, with a hint of trembling and disbelief in his voice. A moment ago, he was lying on the cold street, his chest stained red with blood, and the woman's cold and ruthless voice echoed in his ears, Ji Chen, how can you be worthy of me, a loser like you? She was once in his life. His true love betrayed him at the critical moment, pushing him into the abyss of death. The pain and despair at that moment is still as clear as a knife. Ji Chen felt as if his soul was being torn apart. He was unwilling to give in and was full of anger and resentment. But now, he has returned to his youth 10 years ago, when everything had not happened yet. Ji Chen jumped up from the bed and ran to the mirror. The self in the mirror still looks that young, with no trace of age on his face, only a pair of deep eyes that reveal a calmness and coldness that belies his age. He pinched his arm hard and felt severe pain. He frowned, making sure that all this was real. God gave me a chance to come back. Ji Chen whispered, a trace of firmness and determination flashing in his eyes. In his previous life, he was tortured to pieces by betrayal and death. In this life, he will never make the same mistakes again. None of those who had hurt him could be spared, and he would make them pay the price. But in this strong desire for revenge, Ji Chen suddenly felt a little confused. What is the meaning of his rebirth? Is it simply revenge, or is it looking for a path that truly belongs to oneself? He once thought that his destiny had been determined, but now that he had the key to change his destiny, how should he use it? Ji Chen took a deep breath and tried to calm down. He remembered this day, 10 years ago today, as an ordinary morning in his high school days. However, at a party not long after, he would meet a woman who would change his life. Thinking of this, his heart beat faster involuntarily. This woman, Ning Qiu, was his first love and the biggest nightmare in his previous life. She betrayed him without hesitation when he needed support and love the most, pushing him to the lowest point in his life. The pain was still indelible. However, in this life, he knew her true identity and had a chance to avoid this nightmare. Ji Chen clenched his fists and felt a strong impulse in his heart. He must change the past and take advantage of this opportunity for rebirth. He decided not to repeat the mistakes of his previous life and not to have too much trust or dependence on anyone. He began to recall bits and pieces of his past life, and the past hurts and betrayals flashed through his mind, each scene as clear as if it happened yesterday. Ji Chen clearly knew that every decision he made and every action he took would determine his future. Now that fate has given him a chance to come back, he will never give up easily again. Thinking of this, Ji Chen quickly took out a pen and a notebook from the drawer beside the bed and began to record his future plans and goals on them. He needs to think calmly, clearly plan every step of action, and not let any opportunity slip away. First, he must thoroughly investigate the truth hidden behind his previous life. In his previous life, he was too naive and always thought that everyone was as sincere as himself, but in the end, he was betrayed completely. In this life, he will never trust anyone again. Secondly, Ji Chen decided to control his own destiny instead of being at the mercy of others. In his previous life, he had always lived under the shadow and control of others, losing control of his own life. In this life, he wants to become stronger, independent, and no longer dependent on anyone, especially those who seem to be close but are full of scheming intentions. When Ji Chen recorded these thoughts in his notebook, he felt an unprecedented sense of calmness and determination. All of this is the first step after his rebirth, and this first step will determine his future destiny. He knows that he will face countless challenges next, but he is ready to face the test of fate. Just when Ji Chen was deep in thought, there was a gentle knock on the door, and his mother's gentle voice came from outside the door, Chen, are you up? It's time to have breakfast. Ji Chen felt warm in his heart. He had lost this warmth in his previous life, but in this life, he still had the opportunity to cherish it. He opened the door and saw his mother's loving face, feeling a deep sense of guilt and regret. In his previous life, he did not cherish this family relationship, and even after being framed and imprisoned, he did not even see his mother for the last time. "Mom, I'm up," Ji Chen said softly, with a flash of moisture in his eyes. He knew that he must protect his mother no matter what in this life and prevent her from getting hurt again. Mother smiled and nodded, seemingly unaware of Ji Chen's strangeness, and turned towards the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Ji Chen looked at her back and made up his mind again. In this life, he would not only live for himself, but also for his mother and those who really care about him. After walking out of the room, Ji Chen took a deep breath and felt the morning sunlight shining on his body, which made him feel a long-lost warmth and hope. The pain and betrayal of the past will become the motivation for him to work hard in this life. He wants to change his destiny and take control of his future. And all this has just begun.